And if I lose liberty, then it takes away the basic reason for living.
So what is
if you're the sort of person who doesn't mind about having any liberty, provided you've got a house and food coming to you and you will do what you're told to do, then perhaps you won't mind. I suppose it's the difference between being born free and living life like an animal at the zoo in a cage.
We fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is the Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. Sometimes it's oh so easy to find a topic and someone who is well known to most of the general public to say a few words and play a clip. I'm as guilty as the next person to do that. But quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes I like to dig a bit deeper. This is one of those occasions, if you didn't guess. There are two people in my mind that fit into a sub-mainstream media that I follow, as do many others, I think. One name, you only need to use his first name, Rush. I could listen to that guy for 24 hours non-stop and never get bored. And more importantly, learn things that I didn't even know that I didn't know. The absolute master of talk radio, it has to be said. The other, I call the Oracle. That's what I call him. He goes by the name Beck, Glenn Beck. I know you all know him. This guy is always on the edge. Sometimes, I'm sure we all agree, he teeters over. But that's his brilliance. His vision of the future has been, for the most part, so accurate, it's frightening. He predicted the chaos in the Middle East. He predicted the massive migration and the subsequent takeover of Europe. He predicted all that would happen. No one listened to him at the time. They all said he was crazy. He was one of two guys at the time. Three, actually. The other one's Hannity. And they were all on Fox News at the time. One was Bill O'Reilly, one was Glenn Beck, and the other one's Hannity. Look how many are left. He saw Soros for what he was, and what he is, and what he would become. Again, no one listened. They managed to get rid of Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck left, and now all that's left is Sean Hannity. I wonder how long he's going to last. Again, no one listened. Again, no one listened, and we know why, don't we? I have done several stories in the last few weeks, and it's been quite clear to me and others that Soros has been, and still is, bankrolling a huge swath of politicians, not only at the federal level in the United States, but at the county and state level. He is playing the long game. He is heavily invested in the House of Representatives, into such characters as the current Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, and then of course there's Adam Schiff, and his latest acquisition, the communist from Queens, Cortez. All of this Glenn Beck predicted, and we all said he was crazy. I'm going to play a clip that confirms what he said. In it, he talks about Russia, China, and Soros. All true. Everything has come to pass. Now, to be brutally honest, the only thing which he didn't predict, and we can't ignore it, was that he didn't foresee Donald Trump, the rise of Donald Trump. But, in his defence, neither did Soros. But be in no doubt, the left, and by that I mean the leader, Soros, will not make that mistake again. So I give you exhibit number 1 in that case, which is one of many that you will find. That is the total lockout in California thanks to a new law legalising ballot harvesting. Now I move on to another item, which is all relevant to this. It comes from my friend Hutch Bailey Jr., who pointed out the other day, and I'm playing this clip, who pointed out Schumer, and that they had their eyes on 2 prizes. Not just one, not just the presidency, the Senate as well. And of course, you know who's going to be behind the funding on that. Here's that clip from Hutch, Cold War Radio, episode 704, if you want to hear it in its entirety and the preamble as well.
What are your chances, Senator, of taking back? I mean, very exciting. There's an ancillary question about impeachment, but what are your chances of taking?
Okay, well, let me just say first, it is so important this time to take back the Senate.
Right.
Now, obviously, we want to win the presidency, and that is probably the most important thing. But even if we win the presidency, and I think the odds are greater than half we do, Democrats, even if we keep the House, the odds are like 90% we'll keep the House, barring some cataclysm the other way. If we don't have the Senate, two very bad things will happen. One, Mitch McConnell will block everything that the new Democratic president tries to do, just as he did once he got the majority under President Obama. Nothing happened.
Including one very important Supreme Court judge.
And that's second. He will, it's 51 votes for the Supreme Court. No filibuster for that either. And he will block any presidential appointment to the Supreme Court. My guess is for 1 year, 2 years. I mean, amazingly enough, McConnell said in the New York Times profile of him a few months ago, the proudest thing he did was withhold Merrick Garland. And so it's vital to take back the Senate. Now, in answer to your question, so I hope there'll be, last time in the election, it was take back the House. We needed it. It was easier to take back the House than take back the Senate, given the Senate map. Much.
And how about the Senate?
This time the Senate is not easier to keep than the House, but much better than last time. Here's why. In the last Senate map, it's a third of the senators, and this was just how it turned out. Third of the senators every 2 years are elected. This is how it turned out. We had 10 senators running in states that Trump won. We had 5 running in states that Trump won by 20 or more. Missouri, Indiana, West Virginia, Montana, and Missouri.
You're good.
We lost 3 but kept 2 of those. We picked up 2 other seats, and then the big surprise was we lost Florida by a tiny little bit. This time we only have 1 Democratic senator running in a Trump state, which is Alabama. And they have a whole bunch of senators in purple states up. So is it a lot easier than, is it going to be easy? No, it never is in the Senate because the rural states get the same number of senators as the urban, the bigger states. But is it a lot easier than last time? Yes. And I hope there'll be a cry from one end of the country to the other. Not only win the presidency, not only keep the House, but at the very top of the list, take back the...
Did you catch it, ladies and gentlemen? Now he's going to turn the Democrat mob on the rural states.
There, I think it says it all. The clip I'm going to play for you now is very important. Is very important. It is still available, but I don't know for how long. It goes way back in time to those heady days when Glenn Beck was still at Fox. It's around 2011, I believe. I've taken a small clip from the main clip. As I said before, understand this. Don't look at this in isolation. Take the overview, look at it from 20,000 feet. And remember, Soros, the puppet master. I've done quite a few pieces on this person, because I believe, as is spelt out here, and can be seen in the video, that Soros is the key to all of this, even right now, today. Now, I have no evidence, but nothing would surprise me less than to find Soros's hand even in the Brexit debacle, which is likely to cause short-term financial chaos in the UK and allow him to create another sterling crisis. Here's that clip from May 2011.
America, these are the spoils that everybody is playing for. This is it. These are the spoils. The world is changing. All of the power is going to change. I'm sorry, but America is going to change. The question is, will she survive? The answer is yes, if we pay attention. So who is playing? Who is sitting at the table and saying, I'm putting more chips on the table? Who is actually playing? I contend the United States is not playing. The United States is being played. These are the players at the table, the real serious players. Everybody else is a clown. You have George Soros, you have Russia, China, and Islam. These are the players of the table. And if you look at each of these players, you will see they all have cards that they are holding. And you would say, if you just looked at their cards, who's going to win? Well, Soros He is the ultimate capitalist. He has made billions of dollars, and he wants to slam the door shut on others. Now, I don't know if he even cares what the system is now. He just wants his own system, this open society thing. He has called for a new world order for years. Listen.
You really need to bring China into the creation of a new world order, financial world order.
It only gets more greedy as you get closer to Soros. This is a guy who's known as the man who broke the Bank of England. He's brought down economies before. The game George Soros is playing is a game where he will financially win. Soros and his allies, the allies in the government, and not just this government. He has allies in the labor unions. He has allies everywhere. Now, not the government and labor unions because he loves America and Democratic presidents or he supports the little guy in labor disputes, but because he believes they're cards that he needs to hold to win this pie, the accomplishment of his goal, the nouveau order. Now, how do I know that? From his own words. He has said he doesn't love the United States. He said that the United States is the biggest obstacle to the open society, which is a form of government that he envisions. Quote, the main obstacle to a stable and just world order is the United States. So why would he want to hold these cards? Again, if you don't hold them, someone else is. Clear enough for you? Not a fan, not a patriot. He's a guy who wants fundamental transformation of America. Now, I don't believe the United States is the main obstacle to a stable and just world order. Do you? This man's playing for control of this. But is anyone reporting, or does anybody care? I believe we have always been the great last hope for the world, and we still are. Okay. He also has banking. He has the corporations through the Tides Foundation and things like that. He has the media. Hello, Fareed. Are you watching? Are you busy on the phone with Obama or Soros? The media. He has the radicals. He has communists who are joining with all of these groups. This man's a capitalist. Why would he have radicals? Why? Fuel. He has the churches. He's godless. Why is he funding so many church activities? The man is an atheist. Doesn't make sense unless you understand he's playing for the world. Next player at the table is Russia. You have, with Russia, they've got a lot. Most Americans completely dismiss them as a nation that we needn't concern ourselves anymore. It's a non-threat. But Russia is using communist countries like Venezuela. They are also playing a wicked game, co-opting the Middle East. They know if the control of oil, if you control oil in Europe, you got Europe. That's why they are building pipelines all through Europe. Look who's been building alliances with Europe. With Russia. It's Turkey. Last year, the two agreed to build the first Turkey nuclear plant, a project worth $20 billion. We can't build one here, but Turkey can? Russia is building one. Russia is the biggest trading partner in Iran. They're helping Iran build one. We can't build one, but Iran is safe to have a nuclear power plant? Also, Russia and Venezuela. Last year, the two countries promised to strengthen their bilateral ties. Russia even says the communist country has acted like a real friend. Didn't we just announce on this program last week that they're also building missile platforms in Venezuela? Russia and Pakistan. Earlier this month, the president of Russia and Pakistan got together, had a little chat about working together on energy products, like building a pipeline and exploring for gas. Russia and Libya. Russia's foreign minister just met with the rebel leaders. They are even strengthening ties with China. That's a country, they hate each other. They've never been friendly. China pledged to be a key partner in Russia's plan to build up its Far East region, which is loaded with natural resources. Now let's take a look at China, shall we? I have to take a break. We'll come back and take a look at China.
So we're going to stop it there because I could listen to him back then all day. As I say, the Oracle. I urge you very strongly to watch that clip. Don't wait till I post it. Search for Glenn Beck, who will lead the New World Order. Now I will put links to all these things on my site, but it will take some time. So that brings us up to date, very nearly, on March 18, on Sean Hannity's show on Fox, he had Glenn Beck as a guest, talking about the rise of socialism in the United States. He was also commenting on the campus guy who was talking to students about popular Democrats. No prizes for guessing who those dimwits think is great. Social media at its finest, or social media manipulating the narrative, you decide. Ever notice how these folks have, quote, millions of followers, but conservative voices always seem to struggle, except there are actually more centre and right-leaning people in America than socialists. Yet, if you believe their statistics, you'd never know that, would you? Here's that piece. Links, as I say, will be on my site.
Sean, I distinctly remember every day the last year of my Fox show, I said what was coming. And the last few steps were that the radicals, the anarchists, the Islamists, the socialists would all gather together. They would not be working together, plotting together, but they would see the opportunity and they would all come together and work to destabilize Europe and America. And that is exactly what is happening. You have CARE now in the halls of Congress all the time, and I think that's who Nancy Pelosi was afraid of when they
Glenn,
changed the anti-Semitism
about them being
rebuke last
unindicted
week.
co-conspirators when you talk about, I don't think people may not remember.
No, I'll go a step further. They weren't just unindicted co-conspirators in the Holy Land Foundation. They were started, and the people that were in Omar's office last week or 2 weeks ago during that vote and instrumental in changing were actually from the Palestinian, I think it's Palestinian Council, which was started by the Muslim Brotherhood. They have a direct sister, which is Hamas. So you have the Palestinian Council, you have Hamas over here, they're sister organizations, and the Palestinian Council needed a PR firm, if you will, for propaganda here in the United States, and that's why CARE was started. And it's all very well documented. That's who we have in. You also now have the Democratic Socialist, and you remember this, Sean. If you said anyone was a Democratic Socialist, you were called a racist. Well, race doesn't seem to be playing a role with socialists. It seems, as Newsweek said when I first said this on Fox, and now the New York Times Magazine has said this, we're all socialists now. When did everyone become a socialist? Well, they've always been socialist. I talked to Joe Lieberman earlier today on radio. Joe is, you know Joe Lieberman, and I'm sure you respect him as much as I do. I don't necessarily... Yes, me too. I don't necessarily... Right. I don't agree with him politically a lot of the times, but he's a decent, honorable man. And I asked him this question. You know, if you look at what happened with Beto, you look at what is happening with Ocasio-Cortez, and I don't know if you've seen the video by a new guy called Mr. Reagan online, but he did an expose on Cortez that's a little frightening on what's happening behind the scenes. When I talked to Joe Lieberman, I said, look, Joe, I'm not talking about the people in Washington. I'm talking about the Democratic neighbor that I get along with right down the street. They don't believe in infanticide. They don't believe in destroying the free market system. They don't believe in all of the stuff that is coming out of the mouths of these radicals. What's going to shake them? When are we going to have our Labour Party movement where you have that in England that the Socialist Party has noticed, wow, it looks like we're just full with radicals and anti-Semites, and members of the Labour Party in England are leaving the party saying this is too radical for me. When are the average people going to leave the Democratic Party or at least wake up?
Let me ask this follow-up. I don't want to interrupt your thought. I'm just for the constraints of time because I'm listening to everything you're saying.
Let me just finish what he's.
Okay, go ahead. Finish.
Okay, let me just finish with what he just said was Glenn. He said the people that he knows that are in the Democratic Party are too afraid of the mob, and that's exactly what this cult of death, I think, is
is stirring up this mob that will shut you down unless you agree with absolutely everything. And we lose the country if good, decent people don't stand up on both sides.
I never thought I'd hear anyone advocate for, well, the baby will deliver the baby, and then the baby will be made comfortable, and then the mother will decide if the baby gets resuscitated, if it has trouble breathing, or even during dilation that could happen. But I never thought anyone proposed getting rid of oil, gas, cars, planes, and cows. But it's happened. My question is, in the last 30 seconds, what's the antidote? That's what I wanted to ask you.
Waking up, and I don't know if there's an antidote, but I will tell you this: if the Republicans don't win in this next election, I think we are officially at the end of the country as we know it. We may not survive even if we win, but we definitely don't if the Republicans lose with Donald Trump.
Does that mean the re-election of Trump, and people that maybe didn't like him, now they can see he kept a lot of his promises, most of them?
Well, I know I did. I saw that he kept his promises, and I will tell you, there is no choice this time around. We must come together.
All right, Glenn, thank you so much. You can catch Glenn on the Blaze, his radio show. Appreciate you being with us.
Glenn Beck reveals how he grew to support Trump. I think you would agree with his findings. I certainly do. I'm going to leave you with this thought. I'm kind of paraphrasing this, but it's from Glenn Beck on his radio show. I think it was last week. I have to find that clip, and as soon as I find it, I'll play it for you. But it goes a little like this. Glenn Beck believes America's savior won't necessarily be the Republicans or the Republican Party. It will be the undoing of the liberals themselves. The arrogance of the liberals, and I say the ignorance they have, and the intolerance of alternative views will in the end be their undoing. Now I hope, as well as we all do, that that's right, because the alternative is, quite frankly, far too scary to contemplate. And that's my comment. Join me each weekday morning, 11:45 Eastern. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. We're also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist, and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on these links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio, and click on the like button. And you can hear a review of our morning moments on WHBJ-DB, News Talk Radio on Spreaker.com. Join us and many others. And you can find all our podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the morning moments